Hello Year 4, it's Mrs Dunn here with your daily maths lesson. I hope you are all well. It's the 3rd of March and we are going to start straight away today with looking at some mixed times table questions. So the questions that I ask you today are going to be from the 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 or 10 times table. Remember, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to answer each question, but if you'd like to pause the video to give yourself more time, then please do. Let's go. 4 times 4. 5 times 8. 4 times 3. 6 times 3. 6 times 4. 7 times 10. 11 times 8. 7 times 5. 9 times 2. 4 times 10. Okay, I'm going to reveal all of the answers. Give yourself a tick for each correct answer. Pause the video to do that and then come back to me when you're ready. Okay, so yesterday we looked at decimals and we looked at ordering, so putting them in order, usually smallest to largest, and we also looked at comparing them using the greater than and less than symbol. Today we're going to round decimals to the nearest whole number. So whole numbers are numbers like 56, 73, 9, so a number that doesn't have a decimal point after it. So we're looking at whole numbers, decimals, we're rounding up and rounding down, and we're thinking about the nearest whole number. I'm going to take you through using a model to start with, and if you want to use this model for your questions today, then I will upload this into Teams so that you can print out or copy the sheet and use these yourself. Okay, so we're going to think about rounding 3.2 to the nearest whole number, and I've got my keys to success to help me. So my first key to success tells me to decide what the two whole numbers are. So I know that 3 is going to be my first whole number, and then if I went all the way through, I'd get to 3.9 and then 4. Okay, so it's just the next whole number after this number, basically. That's an easier way to think about it. And then I've got a star in the middle. Now, when we're rounding, we always think about the magic number 5, don't we? We always say if it's a 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9, we round up. Well, this is exactly the same, and we always think about the halfway point. So half as a decimal, remember, is 5. So every number that goes in this box is always going to be something 0.5, and it's always going to be this number here. So it's going to be 3.5 for this question. And then I need to decide if my number comes before or after my star number. Well, I think that 3.2 is going to be about here. So 3.2 comes before my star number, which means it rounds down to 3. So 3.2 rounds down to 3. Okay? So I thought about my whole numbers. I decided what my star number was going to be. Remember, it will always be 0.5 and then the number from this box. And then I decided whether my 3.2 came before or after it. If the tenths number is less than 5, that number's going to round down. It's the same as the other rounding rules. If it's 5 or more, it will round up. But I just want to show you using this star system, just to make it really clear to you. Okay, so this time I'm rounding 5.7. So I'm thinking about my whole numbers. My first key to success tells me to decide what the two whole numbers will be. So this one's easy. It's going to be a 5, and then the next number after 5 is 6. So I'm deciding whether it's 5.5, whether it's 5 or 6. Then I need my star number. Remember, it's always going to be 0.5, and in this case it's going to be 5.5. Where will 5.7 come on this number line? Let me think. 5.7. I think 5.7 is going to be about here. So 5.7 is going to round up to 6 because it comes after my star number. So 5.7 rounds up to 6. So also, because it's got 5 tenths, it rounds up to the next whole number. Let's have a look at another one. So this time I've got 13.5. So I'm going bigger now with my numbers. So 13.5, thinking about my whole numbers that it could round to, 13 or 14. Then my star number is going to be, remember it's a 0.5, and this time it's going to be 13.5. So where will 13.5 be? Well, it's going to be exactly here, isn't it, with my star number? And this is where I need to think about my rounding rule. If it's 5 tenths, it rounds up. So 13.5 will round up to 13. Okay? To 14, sorry. Silly me. Okay, so now we've got one for you to do. I'd like you to pause the video and decide whether 9.7 will round up or down. Pause the video and then come back to me when you've got an answer. Okay, let's have a look at 9.7 together then, children. So we've got 9.7. Thinking about my two whole numbers, it could round down to 9, or my next number would be up to 10. 9 in my star with my 0.5, and then I'm deciding where 9.7 would be. It's going to come about here. So 9.7 is closer to 10. So 9.7 rounds up to 10. And I know that's true as well because it's got 7 tenths. And I know that if it's a 7 at the end, it rounds up. Okay, so today's task. You're going to pause the video and have a look at the questions on maths.co.uk. Use the number lines that are on the questions to help you. And also remember, I have uploaded those star sheets as well, so you can have a look at those. There is a stretch challenge also uploaded into Teams for you. When you are done, please come back to me for reasoning and problem solving. See you in a bit, Year 4. Okay, so yesterday we met Bob, and Bob was ordering the heights of his sunflowers. But today, Bob wants to round the height of each of his sunflowers to the nearest whole number. Pause the video and write down what each of these measurements would round to. If you need to use the star line, then please do so. Come back to me when you're done. Okay, so I'm looking at 2/10 in this number. So 1.2 would round down to 1 metre because it's 2. So 2 always rounds down. Then I've got 9/10. Thinking about my rule, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 always rounds up, and the next whole number is going to be 2 metres. Then I've got 1.5. And the rule tells me if it's a 5, it also rounds up. So 5/10 would round up to 2 metres. And then the final one is 1.4. And I know that if the number has 4/10, it rounds down. So it's going to go down to 1. Okay, have a look and see how you did. Well done if you got those correct. Okay, now Bob's going to travel in his really fancy sports car to the shop. And he rounds his journey to 4 miles. How far might Bob have travelled? So he's done the rounding part for us, but we've got to work out what the decimal number might be. So I've got my 4 miles. I'm going to put that in the middle here. Okay, you're going to have a look at a question just like this in a moment. So 4 is what it rounds to. So I know that 4.1 miles would also round down to 4. So would 4.2. So would 4.3. And so would 4.4. What about 4.5? I'm just thinking 4.5. That would round up to 5. So I think I've found all of the possible values this way. What about my 3-point numbers? So 3.9 would also round to 4. So would 3.8. So would 3.7. And so would 3.6. And so would 3.5. What about 3.4? No, that would round down to 3, wouldn't it? So Bob could have travelled any of these amounts of miles. Now it's your turn. This time Bob rounds his journey to 8 miles. How far might Bob have travelled? So if you need to rewind and have a look again at what I did, then do that to help you. Come back to me when you have found out all of the possible answers that Bob might have travelled. Okay, so thinking about Bob, he may have travelled 8.1 miles. He may have travelled 8.2 miles, or even 8.3 miles. And he may have travelled 8.4 miles. Did anyone put that he could have travelled 8.5 miles? I hope not, because if he had travelled 8.5 miles, it would round up to 9. Now let's go the other way to see which decimal numbers would round up to 8. So I'm going to go 7.9 because that would have rounded up to 8. So would 7.8, 7.7, 7.6 and 7.5. What about 7.4? Well done. If it has 4/10, it rounds down, doesn't it? So it would round down to 7. So these are the different possibilities that Bob could have travelled. Well done if you got those right. I hope you worked systematically to find out the answers. Okay, this time Bob has travelled to the shop in his car. He has travelled 2.5 miles. He rounds this to the nearest whole number and says, I have travelled 2 miles. Is Bob correct? Explain why. So pause the video for me and have a think about what Bob has done and whether he's correct. And then come back to me and I'll share the answer. hopefully you've had a chance to think about what Bob's done. So Bob is saying that 2.5 miles will round down to 2 miles. Now I'm thinking about 2.5, and I know that if the number has got 5/10, it rounds up. So Bob's wrong. So Bob is incorrect. He has rounded down instead of up. Oh, I've spelled instead wrong. Instead of up. Bob should round to 3 miles because his journey was 2.5 and 5/10 rounds up to the next whole number. Well done if you got that correct, and I hope you had a really good go at explaining as well. Okay, so today we have been rounding numbers to the nearest whole number. Make it stick, year 4. Make sure you can identify those two whole numbers. Make sure you know what your star number is. It always is a 0.5 number. And make sure you can decide whether your number comes before or after it. Tomorrow is really exciting. It's World Book Day and we've got lots of fun activities. So instead of a maths lesson tomorrow, we're going to be doing lots of book activities. So our next maths lesson won't be until Friday, which will then be your problem solving and your quiz lesson. I hope you've enjoyed maths today, year 4, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.